T and JT. It's time for Candid Conversation with Lady T and JT. Check out the show. Check it out.
Well, good evening and welcome to another Candid Conversation on this brisk Tuesday evening. Welcome. If you are listening to us on Oak 93.5 FM, welcome. If you are looking at us live on Facebook, like, comment, and share, and welcome. And if you're over YouTube checking us out, we want to say welcome. Welcome to Candid Conversations. I'm your girl, Lady T. And of course, I have with me, if you know, you know, the hostess with the mostest, your girl and mine.
It's your girl, JT, and I'm back like I never left.
That's right. We're so glad to be back. We're so glad to see you back, JT. And listen, we're not alone today. We try to bring you all some greatness every Tuesday. And I tell you, we haven't failed you tonight either, guys. If you know, you know. And if you can see us on Facebook, you will see that we have the wonderful, beautiful Emell Hope as our special guest on tonight. Welcome, Emell.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you, ladies.
We are glad you are here. Listen, y'all, I tried to get her last year. She was like, look, we got convocation in November. We got such and such in December. I'm going to need you to follow back. No problem. She's been busy. She's a very busy, hard worker in her church. She's married to the one and only Ira Hope. There's nobody like him. I tell you, that's brother. And she's just busy and an ICU nurse at Wake Med. Did I get that? Yes. Okay. So she is, like I said, booked and busy. Good evening, Janelle. Welcome, girl. Janelle is in the house as usual every Tuesday evening. We can count on you, and we thank you for being here. Let me tell you a little about our guest on this evening. Emell is like I mentioned, an ICU nurse at Wake Med. She's been one for 20 years, in ministry for about 19 years, married to Ira Hope for 7 years, and loves Jesus. She has a passion for explaining scripture one-on-one in small groups or however. That's her passion. And I think that's a wonderful passion. When I saw that, I'm like, man, that's great. So I know who to call, when to call. And there she is. She just told me if I had a question about scripture. That's what I'm getting out of this. I can just hit her up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Call me.
She likes to explain scripture. And I think at this day and time, that's a wonderful thing and a marvelous thing, because so many people have questions about, when they're reading the Bible. And I'm telling you, to be gifted enough to say, I have a passion and it's explaining the scripture. I don't hear that often, JT. I don't hear it often. But we welcome you, Emell. Thank you again for showing up, for being here. Whew, after we tried to get your people to call our people from last year, but you were here, and that's all that matters.
I'm praying for you.
Yeah, she was cutting up before the show, so she got to be started.
I love you, girl.
And she listens. She keep you laughing. Welcome, Miss Belinda. Thank you so much for joining us. And I can't see everybody's name, but JT, you jump in anytime you will feel that you can see some names that I can't. But ladies and gentlemen, we are here because we wanted to continue on what we left off, talking about health, women's health, even men's health, just different things in life that we deal with, some of those symptoms and things that we may see and take for granted and don't pay attention to. And we really want to talk about the big M, menopause. I don't know if any of you all can relate to that. Some of you ladies may not be able to relate, but I believe I'm in some good company when I say there may be a few of you who can actually relate to that point of life. Right? So we're going to talk about it. Okay, JT? JT, you wanted to talk about it, so you got the mic. Let's talk about it.
Well, listen, I am not quite in menopause yet, but because of my age, I am what they call perimenopause, and I'm probably not saying that right. And it's where I'm at that crossroads of I'm trending there, but not quite there yet. And so, though I feel like in my brain I look about 20 something, maybe early 30 something, my body is saying something totally different. And I'm not real happy with her right now. I kind of have an attitude with her. Yeah, she's giving me a whole fit. It's not, I'm not going through, oh, I'm hot or whatever. No, what I'm going through is, oh my God, I have acne. I've not had acne since I was 13 years old. And even when I had it at 13, I had it for like a year, right? So I'm just kind of like, what is this? And why am I hurting? And why is my hair getting thinner? And why am I breaking out? What is going on here? I don't like this. Why come Amazon ain't got no supplement for this? What's up with that?
That's a problem.
It's a problem.
So you're Prairie. I don't know. People look at me and they be like, "Girl, do you?" And they look at me because I guess I'm up in the 50s. They're like, "You don't have them night sweats, and you don't have no." Thank you, Jesus. Emell, may I ask a question? And I know that, like I said, y'all, she's an ICU nurse, but she knows her home. She's done her homework, and she can help us out here. I'm not at that age where I'm sweating at night and all this things of that nature. But is it possible that you will not get to that? Like, is there a possibility that cup passes us by, or is it just a guarantee that I'm gonna wake up sweating, feel like my inside of my body on fire? I've heard it all. Is that what's going on?
Well, if you haven't experienced it, you may not have it. I mean, my mom never had the sweats. She never had the personal summers. She never had any of those things. But her daughter has. So
which one?
It's possible. I mean, I've heard people say that they've never experienced that. And I say, for those people, to God be the glory, because it is real out here in the summertime, in the middle of the winter. And but menopause affects women. Everybody's different. There's a whole subset of symptoms, and you can just pick from them, because some people experience them, some people don't. I know for me, you can ask Brother Hope. The air conditioning will be on 24/7, 365 days a year, because I need it, especially at night. And that happens with a lot of women. Many women will tell you at nighttime, they need help. But there are things that can help mitigate that, or you won't have as many sweats. And I've actually had figured it out for myself. What are my triggers? So you have to learn for yourself, what are your triggers that cause these heat waves to come up?
Okay, so there are triggers.
There are some triggers, but the trigger might be different for me than someone else.
Right.
Okay. So for me, I already know sugar is a trigger, a big trigger.
Wow.
For me, putting on a face mask, you might as well forget about it. I look like I done took a shower.
Wow.
That's one of my triggers. So there's different triggers for different people, and you just got to pay attention. But sugar is almost universal for some people. So if you eating a lot of carbs, or you just had some dessert, and then you realize a little bit later that you're all of a sudden you're having these personal summers, then you might want to cut out the sugar, or cut it down.
That's good, ladies. I see ladies in the comments saying they're going through it right now. Then I have others at age 53. Paquita says she's not had any symptoms at all. So the best thing I heard out of that was there's a possibility that cup may pass us by. That some people like it did Mother Turner. God bless her. So I love it, because I'm believing that's going to pass me by. I'm not.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is, of course, we know menopause is going to come up. I mean, menopause is going to reach you eventually.
Yes.
But the symptoms, like I said. And so perimenopausal women like myself, like Janet, we're there. And perimenopausal, by definition, is you still may be having your cycle, but it's not regular. It's not always every month at 28 days. You might skip a month here and there. It's like a little irregular. Sometimes people think that they're actually pregnant, and then they realize that they're not. It's just because the hormonal levels are different, and it's changing. So it may happen for you where, one thing I do know, if you start perimenopausal symptoms earlier in life, like in your early 40s, you will go through it longer than if you start in your 50s. Wow. So if you start in your 50s, let's say you start like normal women, you start at 50, 52, 53, you go through those symptoms for maybe a couple of years until your period cease. But if you start early, like I did in my early 40s, then you can go through perimenopausal time for like 10, 12, you can go through a long time, a decade.
Wow. Tell Ira to call me. I'm praying for him. Even more now. Wow, I didn't know that's some good information.
It is. And I'll tell you, Emell, honestly, I just started experiencing these symptoms in the past like 90 days. And so, you know me, my OCD said, I need to have a specialist because this is weird. Like my skin is breaking out. I don't like this. Oh my gosh, you know. And we do have a comment. Can we please address fibroids? Which, yes, I want to get into. But as far as I am concerned, being a little transparent, I was having some pains that made me feel like I was having contractions. And I'm like, now look here. Now hold up. This ain't it. I'm not at a personal summer, but we have definitely crossed that river. It ain't no. I don't want no babies. Maybe some grandbabies, you know, in time, but me.
This is the time the baby slipped through the crack. This is the change of life, baby time. I'm just saying, putting it out there.
Well, put it out somewhere. There you else. Go. Somebody in the comments, y'all catch that. I ain't catching it
out there with JT.
I'm trying.
She slapped that ball right back across the court.
So it happens, but like for I'm sure some of the ladies who may be going through it can put in the comments what they're experiencing. But like the biggest symptoms are like nights sweating at night, getting really hot at night, irritability. Oh, that's a big one. You snapping people's head. It's honestly, it's like, now I've never had a baby, but I'm told that the symptoms are really similar. Like, it's because it's dealing with hormones. So right. You might snap your husband's head off and you don't even know why. You're upset and you're not sure. You're short with people, not sure why, what's going on, but it's all hormonal. And yeah, Tyson, Missy, that heat is something else. Pain, especially pains in the joints. Different things like not being able to sleep through the night, waking up throughout the night. That is a big symptom of perimenopause, where it's like every little thing wakes you up. Or you have to get up and go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times in the night. All of that is normal stuff related to perimenopausal, being perimenopausal.
Well, it's official, girl. I am perimenopausal.
Listen, Tom Miller said night sweats are ghetto. I've been snapping at people, so that's not new. I'm a New Yorker. Hello, somebody. So we don't know the difference.
Oh, and another thing, another big thing that I found out is like I am now. You lose your train of thought. You know how people say they have baby brain? The same thing happens in perimenopausal women. Like you can't think. Like you're talking and literally the next word leaves your brain while you are talking. That's where I am.
Oh my goodness.
You sure? Wait a minute. Are you sure that's not a side effect of COVID?
That is it is a side effect of COVID, but it is also a side effect it's also a symptom of having of being perimenopausal.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
So it's not these hypothyroids then. It's just I'm perimenopausal.
Girl, I thought I was about to go through like early onset Alzheimer's or something. I found out no, it's
we all at the doctors for the wrong reason.
Do not speak that, but I feel you. But don't speak that. I'm like the old people.
I felt the same.
I'm like the old people.
Around them.
I ain't claiming it.
No, we're not.
I wasn't claiming it either. I was keeping it a secret until I found out what it really was, and I was like, "Well, thank you, Jesus. At least I know I ain't, about to be put in somebody's home." To God be the glory.
Exactly. You're right, though. You're right, for real. I felt the same way. I'm like, dang, I got, I'm working around it a lot. So I'm seeing now I got the same symptoms as 90-year-old Betty. And I'm like, it's all because I'm paramedic.
But there's hope and there's help.
There's help, ladies. So again, if you're just tuning in, it may pass you. Like literally, lady, we're going to hit that menopause, but the symptoms may pass you by. I don't know. I'm holding on to that. That thing is stuck with me. We have a few ladies in the comments. They said they're 53. They have had no problems at all. Then I have a few other ladies who feel that fire on the inside. And we're here to help. Email this, help us. We invite you to check your triggers. It may be sugar. It may be, chocolate. I don't know. But you have to find out what your triggers are. I think that's my takeaway from that. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Just because you feel a pain in your joint don't mean you're perimental, but you could be. Because somebody put on here, I think Sonya said, talk about that joint pain or something. But I don't know, man. I got all these symptoms. I'm not burning on the inside. I don't feel the fire. So thank you for that. But all this other stuff. Tiffany Blakely wants to know if you could hit on fibroids. Is that something that you can address? I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I know what fibroids are. I have not had fibroids. They are very common in Black women.
Yes.
And they cause a lot of pain and discomfort. I do know that. That can also cause irregular bleeding cycles or heavy bleeding. But I'm not an expert on fibroids. And just like with menopause and everything else, of course, you really need to see your GYN to like really come up with a plan for you. The fibroids, I mean, they have to be removed. If they're too big, they just have to be removed surgically. But I don't know in the last few years if they've come out with any other treatment plans that can maybe shrink the size of it, because things change all the time in medicine. So maybe some other people in the comments can help out with that as well. And of course, Janae, she's an expert on everything.
Yeah, so I'm your bootleg realtor. I can negotiate any car purchases. I am the consummate saleswoman. But when it comes to fibroids, right, though I do not have a nursing degree, nor do I have a PhD or an MD, I can talk about them. Because guess what? I'm in the number.
He's in the number.
I'm in the number. And so before I get into that, Carolyn Cox writes, I've had fibroids and she's now having perimenopausal symptoms. So yes, ma'am. But yeah, so like with the fibroids, you're right. They are non-cancerous tumors that grow in the uterus. And so there are a couple of things that we can do, and I'm relaying to you all what information my OB relayed to me. They have a surgery called a myodectomy, and I might not be saying that right, where they literally where they open your uterus. They take the fibroids out, they sew your uterus back up. It's a very invasive procedure, but most people elect to do that if they want to have children. Depending on your age and where you are in life, they may have a partial hysterectomy where they remove your uterus altogether. And if they do that, then that stops, having a menstrual cycle, but you do keep your ovaries so it won't send you into menopause. My big thing was, am I going to get fat? I mean, I'm just losing this weight. I'm not really trying to like put it back on, I mean, like, I'm just keeping it 100. So anyway, but so that is an option. They do have medications that can help you manage your pain with fibroids. They also have medications that can shrink them. And then a final thing and all this is on Google, guys. So listen, at the advice of my attorney, I am not giving medical advice. I am just relaying to you all what is on Google. So fact check me on Google. But then you can also go to a radiologist, and they will they will insert something to shrink them, and then the body will begin to process them out through the series of time, through a period of time. So there are definitely options if you don't want to have surgery, if you don't want to do anything that's invasive. But I do believe size and age and health conditions, all of those things play a factor. That is my non-medical, Google heavy related secondhand observation from my OB comment email.
Hey, that sounds good. And thank you for the disclaimer, and ditto for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Y'all,
Exactly.
she can't even give you aspirin. I don't know if y'all know that because she's a nurse. I asked her for some aspirin one Sunday. She told me she couldn't give me no aspirin. I'm like, girl, you was a whole nurse. I'm asking for some aspirin.
You know, girl.
Nope, cannot give aspirin to anyone. That is me prescribing medication. So everybody who comes to me and asks me for medicine, I do not give it. I like my license. I worked hard for
Well, I ain't got no license. So if you want some aspirin, some allergy medicine, some anti whatever you need, I got it.
Gotcha. Wow, I've learned a lot. I never knew that the nurses couldn't offer a medication. I know not who not to ask when I'm sitting in church with a headache. Thank you for that.
you can ask me because
But I
I
don't want to
have the
be
power of the
refused.
Holy Spirit. I will lay hands on you in a minute or pray for you.
Yeah, I
Thank
prefer
you.
that. That's right. That's right. We got some comments about some fibroids, Jay. I see them. Can you see them?
Yes. Missy writes, ablations are supposed to help with fibroids. I had one done a few years ago, and the symptoms still hadn't let up. I heard that. So that's really good that we are having this candid conversation because I heard that. I heard that they can come back. Which
They
is
can
why
come back.
I'm
They
sorry.
can come back, but see, there's different types of fibroids. Some are in the wall of the actual muscle. Some are on top. Some are on the inside. So if they didn't get it all, or if they didn't, if they didn't get it in the right place or take all of it out, then it could be actually part of it still there. Or you could have another one that they didn't they didn't get,
Yes.
or like Janet said, it could have grown back. Did it ever help, even for a brief period of time?
Missy, that's a question for you. Did it ever help, even if it was briefly? That's a good question.
That's
I
a
never
great
knew.
question. Well, and Janelle, while we're waiting for that response, Janelle wrote exactly. They can be removed through the procedure that JT mentioned, and there's also a partial hysterectomy called, and I cannot pronounce that, but yes, there are options.
Right, right. So the partial hysterectomy is what they will offer women that are done, want no more children, pretty much.
Well,
That's the one.
the way it was explained to me is when you're at that crossroads where your body isn't quite at menopause, because also Google, heavily Google inspired, secondhand from my OB, who shall remain nameless. If you're in menopause, that shrinks fibroids. So if you're, at that age, like early 50s, mid 50s, and you've got large fibroids, menopause will kind of take care of them. Whereas if you're not, then it's depending on your pain level and what's going on physically, they may elect to do that partial hysterectomy.
Ooh,
Exactly, because it's really symptom management. It's not anything that is life threatening for a person. So really it's about symptom management for you. So only you can determine what is too uncomfortable for you or too much bleeding. Of course, if you are still having your cycle, then you are more likely to have more blood loss, and that has a whole other set of complications if it's a lot of blood. But if you're okay and you could be managed with, a Tylenol or whatever, then you can do that without going through such an invasive process. So it's about you and what you want to do.
So are they actually growing? Because like you said earlier, some people think they're pregnant. Is it because they think they're pregnant because of the symptoms, or is this fibroid getting larger, giving them a pregnant look?
Well, at the time we weren't talking about the fibroids. I was specifically talking about the symptoms related to perimenopause.
Perimenopause. Okay.
Because you skip it, sometimes you may go 2 or 3 months without a cycle, and then you're starting to, during perimenopausal days, you start to pick up weight. You start gaining a little bit more weight, and so with the weight gain and with missing cycles, and you're being snappy and all of those things together, some people think they're pregnant when they're actually just perimenopausal.
Gotcha. Okay, so that of those ladies who joined in a little later, hopefully you caught that. And if you're married, let your husband hear it. That you're only snappy because you're possibly in perimenopausal. Carolyn Cox say, nurse email, tell me why they did a ligation first, which did not help at all before doing my partial hysterectomy. Oh, or tubal ligation?
I cannot answer that question. I'm not sure at all why they want to do that first, because the tubal ligation doesn't do anything. You still have your ovary, you still actually produce eggs, but tubal ligation just prevent the egg from getting to your uterus. And so the only thing I can just deduce from that is possibly you could have an ectopic pregnancy, which means ectopic means a pregnancy outside of your uterus. So you can actually still get pregnant, and the baby can implant on your intestines. A baby can implant itself wherever. So I'm thinking that maybe they did that, just me, educated guess, that they didn't want you to have an ectopic pregnancy.
Wow.
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 And we got an answer to the question. So thank you, Missy. She writes, I went an entire year without a cycle, and suddenly it appeared at that point of trauma, which was at my father's passing. It literally came on the very day after not having one for the entire year. Wow. And you know what, Miss and Emell, I wanted Missy put something in the comments earlier when we were talking about you know, how holding on to grief can affect a person's health. As we're talking about women's health, you know, hers came back on at that emotional point where she was dealing with the trauma of the loss of her father.
Yeah, so a person who's menopausal, which means that they have not had a cycle for 1 full year. That is the definition of menopause, not perimenopause, but menopause. So if you do go outside of that range, you were considered menopausal. But yes, most certainly stress can bring on a cycle, among other things. Heart failure, high blood pressure, heart attack. That's one of, matter of fact, we can stop and take a praise that all you got out of it was a cycle, instead of one of those other things that's more deadly to you.
That's good.
So, you know, there's an upside to everything, but yes, that can happen.
Wow. This is good.
What was your question, JT?
No, we just had a comment, and I think this was in relation to Carolyn Cox's question. Janelle responded, that procedure does absolutely nothing. Not sure why they just didn't do the partial hysterectomy. And then Carolyn responded, when you responded to her question, she just said, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, ladies, we hope that you are getting something out of this. Oh, let's see. We got with another question. It then reappeared this year on the anniversary of her father's death. That's from Missy, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of the trigger, right? Or you know, I didn't know. Yeah, there's what you talked about earlier, which was a trigger.
Just like that can, like grief and things like that, can actually cause your cycle to come on. Stressful situations can also throw you into perimenopausal. I mean, it can work either way.
Wow.
Wow. Whew. Since we were talking about that JT, we had decided to kind of spin the block a little bit on health and grief and how the two, you know, affect our bodies. And ladies, sometimes we don't exactly take care of ourselves like we should. And so we wanted to kind of talk about that. Janet, you want to kind of?
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you that my sister on Friday, Jackie, she sent me a text, and she said, hey guys, January 17th, she said, do you know today is the 29th anniversary of our mother's death date? And that day I had lost somebody that was very dear to me, who I endeared like a mother. And so it was just really traumatic. And subsequently, my TMI, but I was going through a similar Missy situation. That's amazing. But nevertheless, but you know, what I remember when my mom died of cancer, I was 17 years old, and how I was processing her death was, initially I was really happy that she was no longer suffering anymore, you know, and that she was no longer in pain and she was in her glorified body. And I really tried to hold on to that. And though I really was happy for her, the thought of her not being here and processing that grief, it ended up having a physical effect on me. I developed narcolepsy, where like I could just be having a full-blown conversation with people and I would literally just go to sleep, and then I would wake back up at whatever period of time and pick my conversation up like I just hadn't passed out or went to sleep for a while. I did that for about 2 years. And and I knew that I did it. I never went to the doctor about it. I didn't know what triggered it. I didn't know why that came on all of a sudden. I don't know if it was just grief or me just trying to process what was going on in my environment. I did pick up a lot of weight during that time. I dealt with depression. And subsequently, I just didn't end up feeling good about myself. And it took about 2 years in order for that to kind of lift off of me, which is why, I always share with people, grief is a tricky thing. It comes in waves. One moment you're doing okay, and then something can happen. And then all of a sudden you're not doing okay.
Right.
And so, I wanted to have a candid conversation with you guys, the viewers, right, to chime in as well as the three of us to talk about, how do you process, dealing with stress and grief, and what effects has it taken on your respective bodies? I think we all, have lost somebody very near and dear to us. And, what were those effects?
That's a good question. Ooh, Jen, you just enlightened me on something. I tell you, we can, like, a good example of you ignored that, or did not ignore it, but you didn't get medical attention for almost 2 years. You were literally going to sleep, talk to somebody, meaning you could have been driving a car, going to sleep. You could have been, God kept you. Oh my goodness.
Did.
So that's deep. That's heavy. And I think a lot of us ladies, we tend to we do that, but I don't think it's a good thing. And I think heart-wise, Emell, that we should probably pay more attention to some of the signals and signs that our bodies give us. Do you find that a lot of women our age, in this particular age group, Black women in particular, do you see a lot of heart issues or things, or is there anything that you can share that can help us kind of be more attentive about our heart and dealing with, grief and, as it affects our health?
Yeah, there's a lot. We see it a lot because, especially since the pandemic, I mean, we saw literally people die, multiple people in families, and since then the death rate has gone up. I mean, it's starting to come back down, but it's gone up. And so every year you see so many people that you're close to, they're leaving here left and right. And some are leaving here still even though it may be 4 years later, still as a result of being exposed to COVID, or even being exposed to the COVID vaccines. We're seeing both of them. But in particular, when it comes to just grief, and again, this is a candid conversation, is fresh for me because, yes, on the 17th, we lost someone who's very dear to me as well. And not only that, and just to be honest, as a nurse myself, I almost passed out at work. They sent me home because of the grief of what was going on, because it was twofold. One, Mother Hinton is dear to my heart, and that's the woman that passed. For those who don't know her, she's just a sweet woman of God. But the way it happened, right? So literally 3 years, and it don't feel like 3 years, but literally 3 years on the same day of the week, the same week of the month, she suffered the same type of medical emergency on the exact same day of the exact same week, almost to the actual date. They suffered the same thing. And then it just opened up. You think you're doing well for a while, but then something may open up the healing process. Like, you're being healed, but then there's a fresh scrape against that wound that opens things up. And so it's been a difficult week, all week for me, with regarding that. So I have to watch myself. I mean, as caregivers are the last ones to take care of themselves anyway. So that's something that I have to be watchful. But for everyone who's going through grief, there are things that can take place, like what layman's term we call it heartbreak syndrome, where you can literally get heart failure and a heart attack from just your not grieving properly, or just not going through the grieving process the way that it's just really a rush of emotions that causes a whole change or chain of events that can take place in your heart that will cause you to, some people have to get pacemakers because of it, or some people don't even make it because of it, because it's just the overwhelming flood of emotions that take place. And so heart failure can be caused by, just grief. When my mom lost my dad passed at an early age. He was 46 years old. She was 43 years old. In 1 year, she was diagnosed with diabetes, heart failure, and high blood pressure. All three of those, which should have taken her out. And it took God and going to God and being healed and taking the medication she needed. And she told us she took the medications, and every time she took a pill, she said, Lord, I don't want to take this, but I'm going to take it because the doctor told me to, but I'm waiting for the manifestation of your healing. And God took away the heart failure. She still had the high blood pressure. She still had the diabetes, but the God completely took away the heart failure. Her heart was functioning fine. And so we have to watch those things and do what is necessary to mitigate those circumstances. We know that you are grieving, and we understand that grief is a hard thing. But just like I said not too long ago, grief is a journey. It's not a destination. So we cannot get stuck where we are, or someone will grieve your loss as well. So high blood pressure can happen, diabetes, anything can, grief can bring on it, as like Missy talked about, having a cycle when you didn't have a cycle before. So there are a lot of things that can happen to your physical body as a result of the emotion that you experience while you're grieving.
Whew, wow. For that we had a lot of comments, Jay. I'm gonna see if you can pull up any of them. But that touched home, because we all are grieving right now in our own way, because we all loved our special mother who has gone on to be with the Lord. And I tell you what, it's almost like you lost another prayer partner. You lost that, because I tell you, she could get prayer through. That's what I feel right now. But to know that it scratched the surface, right? That's how I feel. Like we lost somebody very near and dear to many of us. We're praying for the family. We're praying for those that are experiencing the same grief that we're dealing with right now. Emell, you said something I think a lot of the ladies in the comments could relate to, is when the fact that it reopened that wound, or not just reopened it, because I don't know if you heal 100% after you lose. I've lost a father. I don't think there's a such thing as, just forgetting about it and healing. You're going to, like, grief comes, and he's been gone since 2007. Sometimes you just feel like, good gracious, you know what I'm saying? Like, you feel it like it was yesterday. And JT, I know you can relate as well. So we've all lost a parent or two. So we understand that. And so in the comments, the one I see right before me is May Bryant. She said, when my mom died, I took it so bad, I went into a deep depression. I didn't eat, didn't take care of myself, etc. I ended up having a stroke 2 times. Not once. And we know some people have strokes massive, and they take you out the very first time. So maybe we're glad you are here, May. We pray to God that you have found ways to deal with that, because like you said, grief comes in waves, right? So, I know that you're part of the hub, so I know that you're a praying woman and that you're trusting God. And so we wanted to, Janelle said, definitely have seen a lot of loss and definitely maneuvering myself through grief. Yes, again, you recently lost your uncle. Whew. So yeah, 2025 has definitely been a year. Tamika Douglas says, I think conversations like these are so important. Women who are faced with symptoms like this are not only faced with what takes place in our bodies, but it also impacts them in some ways emotionally and mentally. Very true. Really important to be sensitive to these matters and how one may be triggered. I can't see the rest, Janet. Can you see any more?
Right. And I want to mention this, like, stress on your body, whether it's stress coming from grief, or what have you, the response that your body has physically is the same as if you were facing, it's called fight or flight, really. When we think of fight or flight, we think of fight or flight in terms of somebody's coming trying to fight me, or a car is coming towards me and I'm getting ready, get ready to get in an accident. And so your body is gearing itself up to decide whether it's going to fight or it's going to flee. And so, but the body doesn't necessarily do a great job of differentiating between an external or existential threat, like a car accident or a fight or something like that. It doesn't differentiate that well between that and an internal threat, so to speak, like going through the emotions of grief, or this depression and that kind of thing that accompanies grief. And so the response of the body physically is sending out all these cortisol. It's still like the fight or flight, so you still have this surge of emotions. The cortisol levels are raised, your sugars go higher, because you are, even though it's not an existential threat, it's still something going on in your body, and your body's trying to figure out what to do. And so then your blood, you end up developing things like diabetes, and you end up gaining weight, because part of the cortisol is to allow the blood sugars to flow through your body so you can get geared up whether to fight or flight. So your body needs that sugar to get ready to fight or flight. And then, so when you don't have that existential threat, your body is still producing all of that stuff. So then you pack on the weight because you don't need the extra sugar, because you're not running nowhere. So you end up packing on the extra sugar, then your blood pressure gets raised. And like the lady in the comment, if your blood pressure gets raised too high, you could, develop a stroke or a heart attack or anything like that, because you're not grieving properly. So when you're going through that, you have to do yourself a favor to get the counseling that you need. Spiritual counseling, as well as going to a counselor to help you with the grief counseling, to help you get the tools that you need to not have your body to go through that.
That's good.
Emell, I think it goes back though to, because for weeks we've been talking about women's health and trying to get down to the root of as to why we don't invest in ourselves. Oftentimes we will take the time to be a caregiver to others, like you said earlier. We will stop, drop, and roll if somebody calls our phone and says, I need you right now. But we won't apply that same energy when it comes to our personal health. And that's physical health, let alone, talking about your mental and emotional with a counselor to try to help navigate through those feelings.
Right. That's a very good point, Janet.
We don't do that. We don't do enough of that. But what I do appreciate about your show is that you provide a platform that's actually therapeutic for many. You've done segments on grief, and it's almost like having a group therapy, group class, and just sometimes talking it out is all you need. And there are people who are like strong people in their family, and everybody goes to them for everything. And that person a lot of times don't have anybody to go to when it's their turn they need someone to talk to, or just have a listening ear. And so things like this is actually very helpful for the community to help people navigate through those waters, knowing, like Missy, you're not alone. You're not by yourself. We know that losing a mom is so, I don't know. I was close to my mom, but losing a mom and not having your mom with you, your life is never the same. Your life is forever altered. But you have to learn how to live life again. You have to learn how to live again. And you have to learn how to live life navigating through the rest of your life without mom. And it's doable because it's been done since the beginning of time. Eve is not still here. It is a part of life, and we have to learn how to live life.
Mm. And sometimes it's easier said than done, but we have to do it for our health, for our mental health, for our physical health. Sister Teresa Turner, she said, I have managed okay emotionally since my mother passed 3 years ago. I have struggled physically with heart rhythm issues, high blood pressure, blood sugars, and at one point, even heart failure. Now, how, oh my goodness. And what do you do? I mean,
Well, I think part of that is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I really feel like a lot of times don't we feel like we're doing okay emotionally, but it's really just we haven't dealt with things, and so it manifests itself in our physical bodies. I still think even though you feel emotionally
okay.
well,
Yes.
I think that those demonstrations, those manifestations in your body was as a result of what you experienced. It was a trauma, and
Mm,
traumas have to be dealt with.
mm,
And then also too, some things, and quite honestly, it's almost like I call it a domino effect. Sometimes when things happen, whatever the trigger is, whether it's grief or whatever, once you know how you have a whole dominoes, you can see an elaborate domino. You can see it in your mind right now. Once you tilt that domino, you can't stop the other ones from falling. It has to go through the process.
oh
So
my
sometimes
goodness.
when things happen to our bodies, like the diabetes and that kind of thing, the trigger was simple, but the fix is not so simple. And so you have to get the treatment that you need for that.
That is deep. Oh my goodness, Emell. Thank you so much. You helping us so much tonight. I can the women are in the comments. I can't even keep up with them. Frida, God bless you. Welcome. I just lost my mom, and Frida, we are so sorry about that. My deepest condolences to you and your family. She said, I just lost my mom, and I really don't think it has sunk in yet. That's I, I understand that comment.
Yeah.
You know, Janet.
Yeah, and I can completely relate to that because as I said earlier, initially I was just happy that my mother, who died at 43, Emell, so I think that was the same age as your mom when your dad died, but my mother lost her battle to cancer at 43. My aunt lost her battle to cancer at 31. So when my mom died, I was just like, I'm so glad she's not suffering anymore because I honestly, I was believing in faith to the end that God was going to heal my mother. And when he chose not to do that, heartbreak did set in that he elected to take my mother at 17, but then not to be whatever, but somebody else got to keep theirs. And that doesn't sound right, but that's how
Yeah,
I felt. Right.
yeah,
So I'm verbalizing that.
yeah.
And so in the beginning, it didn't really sink in because I'm thinking, well, I'll just navigate life. I had no idea what that looked like. And so, Frida, I just say to you that it's a process, and time is the only thing that's going to help you navigate that. There is no manual to this. It's just time. And as I said earlier, not speaking anything, but sometimes those emotions come in waves. Some moments you're good, and then some moments you're not good. And it just, again, it time. Time.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I hope that helped because I know that's a very sensitive subject for all you ladies that are talking about it right now. Because again, we've all dealing with something fresh and new. So I appreciate everyone that's tuning in, everyone that's in the comment section for sharing, for being authentic. That's one of our big things. We want you to come here and feel like you are in a safe space, okay, ladies? So we can just have that candid conversation because we all know that there is someone else that is going through something. Just know you're not alone in this game. You're not alone. And then you're not saved if you go through it. If you grieve and you hurt and you feel that thing, it's not because God isn't with you. It's not because God doesn't love you or he loves someone else better because you didn't see them cry, you didn't see them behave in a certain way, or it took you longer. It's different for everyone. That's what I'm getting out of this. That is different from everyone. Teresa says, I completely understand, Janet. I think it's a common emotion.
And she also wrote, that's true, Emell. My mom was my confidant, and I no longer have one. Ha! That hits hard. That hits hard. Because listen, they only come one per customer. And and I will tell you, God has graced me because again, all of my first in life, I had to go through by myself, going to the prom, graduating high school, going to college, getting married, buying my first house. All of that I went through without my mother. And so, God was gracious as he sent people in my path to help me along the journey. But, going back to that scab you talked about, Emell, it's, I thank God for the help. It's, it just hits a little different.
Wow. We have our sister all the way out in South Africa. She says, Shalom, sisters. Thank you so much for being here, Sherry. Joyce Spears McMillan says she lost her mom 14 years now, and it took her a long time to get over it. We had to let go and let God, but if you have one living, show her love and do all that you can for your mom. And I agree with 100%. And I am blessed to have mine online right now, joining us and listening to us. And
yay!
She is spoiled, and she knows it. And not just by me, but a whole lot of my friends and family. They spoil her. So yeah, I agree with you. Take care of that one mother that we all get. Like you say, Jay, we all get one. Tamika Douglas says, process is key. That's exactly what takes place as it relates to grief. It's a process, and there are stages of grief. I often tell people, take your time in this process. Grief is normal. When we lose those dear to us, it is just imperative that we are mindful of what takes place with us in that process and how it affects our bodies. I agree with that 100%. I can say this, Emell, because I have shared with Candid Conversations, ladies, of the situation I went through a year ago, February 18th, when when I dealt with my heart situation, and I hadn't at that time lost anybody, but I had dealt with a situation that I had been dealing with, kind of low key dealing with, and just thinking I'm dealing with it, and life still piling on top of this stuff, but yet still dealing with that. Probably about a year and a half prior to that, I'm not knowing. So, just one day you sit down and you're like, wait, this stuff don't feel right. And then I find out, I've done something to myself, which is cause this heart situation. And I end up in the hospital for 4 days. You know what I'm saying? So it's different when I thought about it, I had time to process, like, how am I having a heart attack? You know what I'm saying? Like, me? No.
So funny.
So I realized even though I thought I was dealing with it, and I don't bite my tongue much. So I'm feeling like I'm dealing with it, but I'm still not able to be like, like I'm feeling like I'm hiding, or I'm having to succumb. I can't show my hormones. You know what I'm saying? But I'm dealing with this thing. So if once we realize who we are and what we are, and that we really are dealing with something, be vocal about it, pray about it. And I think being vocal and having that confidant or that other person to speak to, that therapist, anybody that you can just speak to. Yes, we love the Lord, and yes, we're saved and love God. Yes, disclaimer. But in real life, real time, when you're ready to really go flip the script on something or somebody, if you got that person that you can just call and talk to, I think that helps, ladies.
It
We got to
does.
help us, because we internalize things. I think like, I'm strong, I can handle that. And you think you're dealing with it properly, and the whole time on your inside, you got tears in your artery, and you down for 4 or 5 days. That's different when you're an employee. But when you got a business, we can't. So I can't afford to be like on my back for 4 days. I can't call nobody in most cases. So my point is, we have to pay attention to our bodies. We have to be cognizant. We're strong women. We wear those capes, yeah, we do. But we definitely need to really pay attention to our body, the signals, the signs. Let me jump to this comment real quick. May Bryant said, wish there was a platform like this when I lost my mom, because I had no one. So I ended up going through many emotions, sad, angry, disappointment, etc. alone.
But yes, and you still, of course, go through the sad, the anger, disappointment, the regret, all of that. But it's we are to bear one another's burdens, and
yes,
there are people that well, first I'll go back to scripture. I can't help that, but
go ahead.
there's no temptation except that is common to man. But God, he's experienced everything that we experience. He's experienced loss. Jesus experienced being separated from his dad. He's experienced all of those things, and he's gone before us and shown us how it's done. And we have to definitely lean in to him. But then also find like a network of people who are empathetic and who can do things, even small things, going for a walk. There are things that can help even decrease your stress. One of the things that are that works, that is amazing to me, that I never thought really worked just by reading it, but breathing exercises does an amazing, like you can literally lower your blood pressure like 10 points by sitting there and doing just breathing in for like breathe in 5 seconds, hold it, breathe out 5 seconds, and do like 2 or 3 times. It makes you feel better. It makes your blood pressure go down. Another thing is going to the gym. Like for me, going to the gym, even though I don't necessarily like to go, but when I go, sometimes I sit out in the front in the 30 minutes before I even go inside. I ain't gonna lie.
I understand that.
But once I go in and I start working out, it actually feels great. So there are things that you can find to do to help in that process.
So it sounds like exercising, ladies, would help a little bit. I'm just saying, Janet. Excuse me.
They ain't got no. I know they got a pill for something. I know they do. Give me a pill.
They got pills. They have pills too. But you know what? Can I say? I'm gonna say something real quick about the pills that are on the market for depression and things of that nature. And there's a lot of people on it, and I'm not judging at all. But the pills were actually studied only for and maybe Sister Branch can talk more about this, but they were only studied for like, I want to say 6 months. So they were never actually designed to be on for 10 and 12 years and 20 years. They've never actually put out information like that. It was designed to help you get over a certain period of time, like grief or whatever. They studied it for like 6 months and then never really went back to study it again. So we don't really honestly know the long-term effects of being on medicine like that for a long time. So
wow.
But we know that God works every single time. Medicine.
That's right. Longevity too.
Yes. Love it.
Ooh, that's good. That's a good point. Good call out too, because we do know and we know what you do, and we thank God for you and nurses like you, Emell, that have agreed to come out and share important to us, and just to take time out of your day off to do that. Again, we're grateful. We're grateful to every female, women, all you women out in the comments, even men that have tuned in and made comments. We're grateful to you guys. We've learned so much. Hopefully you've gotten something out of it as well. We see in the comments. Can you see them, Jane?
Yes. So Lady Nadine Stokes says, wow, this is good. Carolyn Cox says, walking in your neighborhood is good exercise for people who don't like the gym. Girl, I don't like to sweat, so I'm not trying to do none of this.
Yeah, it's not a gym thing. It's not a gym thing, but I appreciate it. That's good information. We're having a candid conversation. It's great information. Buy her some sweat bands for her.
So she gonna sweat from perimenopause, but she don't want to go outside and walk.
She got no choice. It's gonna get her. She got.
We opened this.
The sweat is gonna get her either way, right?
Hold on. We opened this show with I don't like sweat, and this is weird. I need a specialist.
Please, she started the show pleading. Please help me not sweat. Period. All that other stuff.
But no, I want to make sure that we at least say this before we go. Oh my God. Yes, Sonia, I can definitely go walking in the mall. I think I can handle that. That might actually be fun to me.
No, because she's gonna go buy in the mall. No.
It is.
But no, in our last minute, I did want to close out with this comment, which I think is an important one about community, because we did say earlier that, having a platform where people can verbalize, certain emotions kind of helps in the process. And so Missy Tyson wrote, I am forever grateful to my sisters who have availed themselves to me during this time, meaning her time of loss. She's had to make many midnight and very early morning calls just to process. And so she's eternally grateful for each and every one of you. And I do hold that, having a support system is important. I know when I've gone through, different personal situations that sometimes I can't even socialize, I'll call Emell like yelling and screaming and frantic. It's because I'm not jeering, not because I'm upset. Or, when I'm being a little irrational, Tanisha will tell me to calm down, and I'm like, okay. So you definitely need that support structure in place to hold one another accountable, but also to let our sisters know we're holding you up too. You're not in this by yourself. You're not alone.
You're not alone. And I tell you, hopefully you all got something out of it. Emell, we didn't finish, so you already need to go ahead and look at your calendar for part 2. But meanwhile, I'm looking on another page where Deborah Perry did make a statement comment, and I'm going to just address it. Thank you, Ms. Deborah, for being here. She said that grief she said there have been men and women who have died, in her opinion, of a broken heart when losing a spouse. She's lost losing a spouse. She's enjoying the program, and thank you so much for the interesting and informative information. Well, praise God, and we're grateful for you for joining us. Thank you, my mom, for being on today, and everyone. Pam, my cousin Pam Morgan, she lost her son, my cousin, a little, maybe 2 years now. So we thank you all. We didn't know how the show was going to go, where we would talk, and what parts you all would, gain from, but hopefully you gained from everything that was said. We talked about menopause, grief, dealing with stress and things of that nature, going out for a walk, or getting you a treadmill and walking in the house, Jan, with a fan in front of your face. Anything, whatever works. Whatever works. But thank you again, Emell. We're really looking forward to part 2, because I know you got notes over there. You did not get to read them all. Please thank Ira for letting us. Emell is on speed dial. Yes, Emell, you on speed dial for everybody. If y'all didn't know at the beginning of the show, she also said that she loves to exegete those scriptures. She likes to break that word down. So Tanya said, I learned so much today. Thank you. Well, we thank you guys for tuning in, and prayerfully you all have the good rest of the week. I don't know if it's going to snow or not, but if it does, stay safe, y'all. Emell has to go out either way. And we thank you for what you do in the community, Nurse Emell Hope. Good night, you all. We have to go, but it's been a wonderful show. Thank you, and bye, y'all. Bye.